So a best of 3 from the most recent Korean Open Cup, I think. Korea or North America, I think it's Korea. 2 cheesy players in a cheesy matchup. Top right, it is DPG's herO. Bottom left, it is Classic. And I swear I did look for other replays that didn't have herO in them, because I've cast herO a decent amount the last couple of days. But it's really hard. The replays that are most readily available are often the Open Cup ones, of which he plays in both North America and Korea. And since he gets so far as well, it's like, you know, so many of the replayers are gonna have herO in it. Yikes. That's a no. Chat being chat, guys. So we have 2 players, as I said, that are usually very cheesy, going up against each other in what is usually a very aggressive matchup. herO, obviously the favorite to win this one. Classic is still kind of coming back from military, and no one has really replicated the speed of herO's success. So you have 2 people that came back from the military, I guess a decent bit ago at this point in time. Time's all relative, isn't it? But herO came back with a surge of power. It took him a few months before he was already being talked about once again, and then just a few months afterwards, he was already contending. So it was a talk around town like, wow, he's punching up really fast, and then it was talk about how he's defeating players steadily, and then it was talk about his developed PvZ style, which we're all quite thankful for. But PvP, nothing super developed there from herO. I'm sure he is trying to push any boundaries that he sees to push, but PvP is kind of played out to a certain expectation. These maps, the ones with the high grounds, the ramp and the natural, play out like you'd see here. And actually, I take that back. That is herO dropping down 1 billion shield batteries. So it's saying, mostly, right, that we might have some pylon blocking, we might have some early aggression, but both players going for that low grounds, usually signals to a nexus. herO, very notably, never took that nexus, sent the Zealot across the map, and Classic is in a lot of trouble. These are almost all herO's shield batteries. When you don't spend 400 minerals on a nexus, you've got a lot of extra cash. So 1 shield battery for Classic is good. I mean, it's something, right? But this is going to cause a lot of chaos. The question is it enough? Now, herO really isn't working off of a lot of production, so it's 1 gateway. You wouldn't think this snowballed into victory. Sometimes it can, but in this case, it really doesn't look that way. It really doesn't. The Nexus of Classic is going to finish and more than make up for the 4 worker deficit, and the shield batteries are kind of comical right now because they do help heal the Adepts before they shade in, so they are going to have max amount of time to do damage to the main base. Obviously, there's not really a contest of strength in the low grounds. The shield batteries are literally there as like a way station, just recharge station. Zoop, zoop, and on your way. And zoop, zoop while you're out of your way, I suppose, as the Adepts do try to escape. There's just so little that really comes in afterwards. The thing that Classic would really have loved to have done at some point is actually fully wall off the natural. That would have been fantastic, but wasn't unable to do so. And all the probe pulling and affording everything you need to afford, it can be very difficult to afford a wall just because you need a wall. So Classic, I think, handled this, you know, almost as gracefully as one could, I suppose. Unless you know for a fact they're going to do this, and then maybe you can change it up, but you don't actually know necessarily until that Zealot shows up. I mean, I don't know when Classic's probe left the base, but did see a Zealot being made, usually a tip-off, but anyways. Still got a little chaotic. The wall can now be made if that's something that Classic thinks he would want to do, but Classic now just frankly has 0 scouting. Right, so I'm not sure when the probe left over here, but he has absolutely 0 idea as to what's on the way. And that includes seeing that 4 Adepts had been made, or 3 more Adepts, I suppose. So they get up into the main base. Not anywhere close to the probe line, though, so herO's not going to pull the trigger there. I think right now, it's mostly about distracting, honestly. And he's getting a little bit of scouting. He sees that there's no robo. He has not seen anything in the main base, right, since his initial adepts. So possibly there could be a robo being made, but there isn't. That's a Twilight Council for Classic, who's simply not thinking about a one-base DT follow-up. And, you know, especially with all the units that herO has shown, I kind of don't blame him. If I saw this many units, you know, maybe not the Adept, the Stalkers as well, I think DTs would also be kind of the last thing on my mind. But with no robo even begun, this is game over. Classic's gonna try and play this one out. Force fields to buy some time, but they're only gonna last so long. The robo is on the way. Yeah, it's just... If he had indefinite force fields, if he had infinity force fields, then I guess he could do whatever he wanted, but... That is difficult to grab, isn't it? That many centuries. GG, herO, with some cheesy cheese. In the bottom right, after some serious cheese, we do have a up 1-0 DPG herO. In the top left, it is Classic, who I can't think of a rhyme for, so... So it really wasn't the initial shield battery spam that caused Classic's downfall. But, of course, with all of the chaos that is created, it's very unlikely that Classic is able to get his own scout on the side of the map. I say very unlikely, maybe more like just unlikely. Maybe the varies a bit too overboard, because there are times when a player in Classic's position would still have a probe out in the map. So they'd send it back in and, you know, confirm there's no natural nexus, and then confirm that there's only one gateway, and then not be killed sometimes, because it's really not... It's not something herO wants to do, is spend time with his only reinforcing unit to go kill a probe. So, I mean, really a probe on the map at all could have given Classic a lot of information, and in that case, the lack of information, the lack of things being seen, rather, was good enough information. So even if he had never scouted the actual proxy, never scouted the actual Dark Shrine, if he saw nothing in the main base in the natural after all that hubbub, then you know something is up, and a robo would be pretty safe. Certainly safer than a Twilight Council, which is kind of the most unsafe thing to do in the early stages of PvP. Obviously very powerful when it comes to mid-game PvP, so there is certainly that risk to take to go ahead and slap that down and even potentially catch up, right? If herO was actually expanding and macroing and whatnot, which Classic could not know. So, but if you don't have that probe, what else are you going to have? I mean, you're going to be trying to defend with your own limited amount of units. Warping in a sentry would be quite costly, and you could die to the adept pressure alongside those probes, and then in itself to build up a bit of energy for hallucination. Just a very difficult position to be put in, but one could say that for general PvP. It's a difficult matchup to constantly read. This time around on Moondance, without that natural ramp, we don't have any one-gate attempts at expanding Shenanigans. The Classic is the one who's going for a bit of an all-in. It's got a robo on the way. herO with the Stargates on one base is usually not nearly as dedicated. Both getting shield batteries in case both of them are getting Stargates. They actually have not been able to see what exactly is going on. So far, the scouting is that Classic went a couple of Stalkers. And I'm double-checking I didn't confuse myself. Yeah, and herO went a couple of Adepts, which both are basically the bread and butter of their follow-ups, right? So if you want to get to a Stargate ASAP, you can get Adepts. If you want to... I guess further advance your 3-gate robo cause or 2-gate robo cause, then you start building up your Stalkers from the get-go. Not to mention the Stalkers can maybe protect if you were proxying, you know, any pylons out on the map, and take care of the Adepts if you properly wall off with your pylon, which Classic has been doing. So Classic's not really at peak power, so all this time spent chasing down the Adepts is not really wasted time because it's not a proxy that he's trying to hurriedly protect. Yeah, the Stalkers could do that and be totally fine for it. One Oracle won't do a lot of damage, and while it might have been tempting to go for a Stasis Trap, a single Stalker, one lone Stalker reinforcing back at home is enough to kind of deter that. And we have more Adepts on the way for herO, who, you know, only just now with the Oracle flying in is be able to see that it is a one-base, 3-gate robo. So That's maybe not the most advanced scout you can have. If the Adepts had gotten in, clearly that would have been a lot better. And now with 1 Oracle, 2 Adepts, and 2 Stalkers, and a Shield Battery. Question is, can herO hold against the incoming power spike of the Warp Prism? No Immortal, but the Warp Prism's still very scary. Stasis Trap did finally go down about half the probes. It was quite a nice one. I think herO lost another couple of Adepts, yeah. The Warp Prism adding that micro is absolutely helpful, but a Shield Battery is also pretty helpful. Looks like herO is going to be fine holding this high ground, but then we turn into the PvP problem, which is we're both not expanding, sorry. So can we just both expand? Can we call this even and then continue our game? And the answer is kind of yes. I feel like in other matchups, especially non-mirror matchups, you know, it's not the equivalent of one base being one base, right? If a Zerg's like on one base versus a Terran, they're not going to be okay with that. But even other mirror matchups, like a TVT, if one person's contained harshly by a tank push that they have not been able to go down their own ramp against, you know, and the other Terran anticipates any type of drops, it's just so hard to play the rest of the game out. But the contain for PvP, it's not going to last very long, as you can see. So if herO gets his Nexus down ASAP, this 30-second difference, I mean, it could be problems, but I don't think it's going to be as big as a problem as it might seem. I mean, more like a 50-second difference. And actually, herO misplaced his Nexus. So that's a further delay on the Nexus and 100 minerals lost. Well, now herO is a bit more dependent on trying to get something done with his Blink Stalkers, which Blink is done, right? So that would be an excellent tool to take that map control and start picking off some of these units, but Classic still has Warp Prism for some micro, now has an Immortal, which is going to stand its ground. herO has not built up a surplus of Stalkers to overwhelm this, which would be the only thing that's scary for Classic. And herO is kind of out of luck right now. He is the one being chased down. So, you know, we're not going to really say that herO has map control. Classic is in no way scared of him. Has pushed him away from any shenanigans in the main base, and even if it did happen, now there's an Immortal there as well, a Shield Battery that could still be walked back to, and Classic has nothing to worry about. So herO, you know, maybe with a faster Nexus by about 40 seconds, no, might still be okay here. Yeah, okay, going back to my original statement. If he had been ahead in the economy, yeah, then maybe he's building enough Stalkers that this is a very difficult position for Classic, where he has to defend against so many different options and all the micro that herO can do. But since herO is really just staying on the level economy, his Stalker number is not intimidating enough. Especially with Classic kind of nipping any early harassment in the bud. I really think that this is Classic's game. I don't know how he's going to lose this one. herO is certainly thinking of all the ways that could possibly bring this back, but things get worse and worse as Adepts go into the natural. Any lost mining time is a big old bummer. But hey, look at that. herO's double Oracle swoops in to kill Classic's probes. And it's going to be much better on the kill count there for herO, who now is ahead by 6 workers, although the Adepts in the main base now, thanks to that Warp Prism, are going to perhaps change it up again. Did he just recall his army from the natural? Or maybe, I think it was the offensive army. Not that many, though, and Stalkers aren't going to kill the Adepts that quickly. So this is still bad news, because while the economies might be, again, even, Classic's army supply is much bigger than herO's. And it's much better as well. The only thing herO could have done to help make up for this deficit was to micro all the way across Moondance. You know, pick off this Stalker, pick up the Warp Prism, and then maybe you give yourself a chance. But there has been no picking off of anything, except Classic just picking off herO's only Immortal. Shield Battery goes down, and the Warp Prism is going to be targeted by herO. It just is maybe too little too late. 3 Immortals still packing a punch. Some of them still with their shields as well. Guardian Shield for Classic, not for herO. So on and so forth. herO is pretty screwed. I already have it. GG. So Classic's not totally outclassed here. I think if you talk about PvT and PvZ, I think Classic is just not as good as herO. I'll say it. I'll be so bold. But I think when it comes to PvP, not only the matchup, but just Classic, I guess, being very well suited for the matchup. I feel like this would be relatively even. So I'm glad to see this is going to go to a game 3. Clearly, herO needed more zealots. That is his problem. He needed to make 334 zealots, or whatever he made yesterday. In the top right of Tropical Sacrifice, we now have DPG herO. And in the bottom left, it is Classic. So once again, on a map that has that natural ramp, so they're both going to get this low ground pylon. But it's really up in the air as to what they mean to do with it. Do they really mean to go into a Nexus? I don't know, man. herO was the one to interfere with the potential macro game in game number 1 when they both did this potential expand build. Will he be the one to do it again? I don't think it was that effective that you think it is their weakness. Classic did not die to the early aggression. He died to kind of the repercussions, I suppose, of early aggression, which is the difficulty in scouting any follow-ups. So herO just took the reins and never let him go. herO doesn't seem... Well, no, he's getting a Zealot. They both are getting Zealots. So here's the thing about the Zealot, right? So I mentioned it in the first game. Well, he got a Zealot, so maybe he was tipped off a little bit. The problem with that is that if you are both threatening a pylon block on the Nexus, you need to have a Zealot in production. So the tip-off would be more so that herO wasn't even trying to do the Nexus, which I don't remember if he was trying to or not. He probably was. He's probably trying to keep up appearances. Exactly what he would be doing here. It actually looks like he is going to expand just with Stargate to Stargate. And then maybe another tip-off would have been going across the map, right? So he sees the probe and says, oh, I'm blocking you, and your Zealot has to play Ring Around the Rosie. Then the Zealot just goes across the map. Okay, that would also be suspicious. But that's probably not how it went down. I was talking about the overall players and whatnot. This is some of the finer points of early game PvP. What probably happened is exactly what we're seeing here, except herO didn't actually go for a Nexus, didn't go for a Stargate, and was just sending the Zealot across the map and doing some shenanigans with it. But this time around, it is, well, another version of the low ground opener in PvP, which is still kind of wacky. Both of them trying to delay Nexus, both of them successfully doing so. herO more successful than his opponent. And then both of them going into Stargate, which is just, it's just fun. It's fun. herO is going into Phoenix. He has scouted his opponent's Oracle. Classic is going into an Oracle. He has scouted his opponent's Phoenix. So what Classic is doing is basically saying, I think I can get away with this Oracle, which he just barely did on a shorter map. That Phoenix catches the Oracle as it pops and is, you know, it just completely takes it down. There's no chance the Oracle can bypass the scouting and then hits a location before herO responds, right? So in this case, I mean, literally a second or two difference would have been Classic making a huge mistake, losing his first Oracle, and maybe even dying in the entire game right then and there. In this particular game, herO is a bit too late to find the Oracle, tries to find it, was on the right path, but didn't find it. So the Oracle gets 8 worker kills. It is 3 Phoenix, so the recall is not going to be fast enough, but for 8 probes, I feel like you'd be pretty happy with that. Now, Classic has to combat someone who has a Phoenix playstyle, so we'll kind of give credit to herO and say that maybe over time he will get 8 probe kills, but it won't be as impactful as all 8 probe kills right off the bat very early on in the game. Or perhaps we should give herO more credit. Maybe herO can Well, no, it's literally just one zealot. I mean, this is good. This is fantastic. The fact that he's killing such expensive army units so they don't bulk up is really important. This starts a snowball, but it's not going to kill Classic because there's something that kills him. Phoenix can only do so much, but to lose 3 Stalkers right off the bat, that is painful. A shield battery in the natural would have been the biggest difference maker there. Classic even going at 0 army supply for a couple of seconds. I did that thing again where I just inhaled and it was a wrong inhale apparently. So Phoenix now get even more time to just play around the probe line. Again, if 3 Stalkers hadn't died earlier, then now there's 3 more Stalkers, or 2 more Stalkers, I guess. There's 5 Stalkers, presumably with a shield battery. Maybe this isn't a problem, but this is a problem. Classic had Stalkers out in the middle of the map, so it would have been even more than 5 Stalkers. I guess it would have been in combination, like 8 or 10. And then he might have been able to both defend and attack, or just attack, or just defend, whatever one. Instead, in this game, it's awkward because he's kind of halvesies on either approach, and as such is doing a worse job in either approach. I will say his chronos on his probes have worked out. The earlier damage from the oracles still, I guess, showing its power as herO is down 6 workers. But he has managed to keep the army off his back, which means that he might be able to go ahead and win this game. Because again, if Classic had taken that worker kill, powered up on the Stalkers, and done a lethal attack as soon as he had enough Stalkers to, I mean, it probably would have been lethal. It probably would have been game over. herO would probably have less workers than what he has now, because it would have happened a minute ago. And then he also would have had much less army. And maybe Classic doesn't straight up win with the push. Maybe it's not lethal, but it's very, very good. But then we do have more of a map control situation for Blink Stalker player, because they've been able to play out the game after an initial economic victory to a army victory and a map control victory and then expanding faster, right? And then it would have been herO desperately getting to a 2-base, almost all-in situation and going across the map to try and win the game. Now it's not desperate. Now herO really is just the one that is in the better position. So his army is better. Oh, he's going to lose the Warp Prism. But Classic is going to lose so many Stalkers yet again over time. He's lost what is now 10 Stalkers. Imagine if he had 14 still ready to go. That's a lot to play around with. But things would have had to gone very differently. So even though Classic is ahead by 9 workers, he is about to die. He is about to lose game for 3 unless he can pull a rabbit out of his hat. Force fields do help, and there's nothing that breaks the force fields. But there are things that kill the sentries. The Phoenix could go after the sentries, maybe not. Maybe they used some of their last pickups, but there's also just waiting the sentries out, which herO seems content on doing. Classic buys himself some crucial seconds. Now his shield batteries are done. Another warping will be available, and perhaps charge will finish up. And this game is not over yet, with Classic still up 9 workers, right? In the 3rd base, obviously. All he has to do is maybe wait for another round past these 3 zealots. If he had 6 more zealots, I think that'd be fantastic. Just having zealots in general is great against someone who is still very dependent on these immortals, but 3 immortals pack a punch against everything. Warp Prism is in play once again, and even the Phoenix are taking some of the immortals out of the play for Classic. So this is going to end up still being maybe even quite one-sided, as you see a lot of red on the field and not a whole lot of blue. Classic is nowhere close to the army supply yet again. Immortal, I guess, maybe could have been involved in some of the earlier fights, but now it's going to get picked apart almost all by its lonesome. And Classic is, yeah, still pretty dead. Still pretty dead. There's so much done in the early game with the Oracle. I really wonder if Classic was supposed to win this game. There are opportunities for herO, and herO is one to kind of choose the right thing at the right time, especially in regards to comebacks, but was it as strong as to say that maybe Classic threw a little bit? It might be a bit too harsh. so many workers so early on is so impactful, and then just not having a shield battery in the natural to help save his stalkers, which would have helped his push happen sooner, more powerful, would have controlled this push across the map a lot better as well, instead of kind of trying to sacrificing stalkers for the warp prism and then getting taken down for the most part anyways, right? And Classic just seems like he doesn't want to admit defeat. Again, the warp prism is shot down, but there's plenty of army already here on the front lines for herO to win this game. He's not even gonna lose an Immortal. Okay, he lost an Immortal. Maybe that's what Classic wanted to get. Okay, yeah. You know, just to say that he did. GG. herO with 2-1. This was from the Korean Open Cup, I think, a couple of days ago. GG. I think Classic shouldn't have moved across the map. Well, yeah, I mean, it really does suck because, again, if he had saved more of his stalkers from the get-go, he wouldn't have been punished so hard for being out in the map. Even with the Phoenix flying his stalkers, chasing his stalkers down. You know, if you have 14 stalkers versus 8, the Phoenix are going to be pretty shy about doing that. And they can be shot down if they try. But, yeah, maybe since he had already lost so much time and so many stalkers till that point,